Appreciate you taking time to come today. We've, as Yogi Bear says, you know, we can learn a lot by watching, and so that's maybe hopefully something that we can pick up today and through this Forestry Forum. And we've got some good topics today. As you all know, you probably got it in the email. So how things are kind of going to roll today to kind of give you an idea. We'll start this morning with the Mon Forest is here, and then Farm Credit, and then Jerry Klingerman is on the Zoom with us. Can you hear all right, Jerry? Can't hear a thing. Can't hear a thing? Can you hear now, Jerry? Is it coming through the system? You can't hear a thing.
We can get a guy. There you
See,
go.
this technology. So when I first started,
There he goes. He can hear him now. He said he can hear him.
yeah. So when I first started, we had a chalkboard and overhead projectors. Now we got to learn how to use all this technology now, huh? You know, when they were teaching in school, they always said, "Don't turn your back on the class." Or they hit you in the back with some spit wads or something. So hey, yeah. So Jerry, we're up and running, and then. We're going to kind of take a break at 11:30 and grab lunch and do some industry updates. And then at noon, we're going to be joined by Atlee Kaufman. And so Atlee is Amish. And so Atlee can't do the Zoom, but he's going to call in and present to us about Bentwood Solutions. So we'll work from that. And so that's how we're going to kind of roll. They'll bring some lunch in and we'll stop for that. So, you know, a key player in this Forestry Forum has always been the city of Summersville and the mayor, Robert Schaefer, and helping us get this going, and of course Chris Neal with Columbia is very instrumental in finding speakers and being a team partner in this also. So, Mayor, you always have something to say.
You what? Hey, just real quick, I want to welcome everybody. This has been an incredible run, an incredible partnership. It's been going on for years now. So I want to thank Brian. He's him with WVU Extension. He's always put the right foot forward, and he is truly an asset for what he does for WVU and our community. So I really appreciate Brian. Chris Neal, he is actually the chairman of the Summersville Forestry Council, which is an important organization for us because we believe in trees. We are a Tree City USA, and very proud of that. How many years we got it running now?
I think it's 50.
Yes, getting close to 15, 16, 17 years. And of course, to be able to be in that, you got to have a budget. You got to put money into trees. And I can tell you, we have a total inventory of all the trees in the city that the city owns and is responsible for. And we put regular money annually into his budget. So we can continue to maintain those trees, and we do a lion's share of plant new trees every year. So extremely proud of Chris and the Forestry Council and the work they do, and you know, it's a good thing for the city. Also like to comment, I got Chuck Shaw, my right-hand man from City Council here. Chuck's been on City Council for quite a while. And then my new executive assistant, many of you may be familiar with, Mary Ann Taylor, who used to be the executive director here. She changed positions, and now she's the new executive assistant to the mayor at the city, and glad to have her on board, and it allows both of us to get a lot more done on behalf of the city. Just want to give you a couple of updates, things going on with the city. Always like to do a little advertising piece of the city. We will break ground this year on our 128-acre recreational complex. I'm real excited, bringing the pieces together. Been in this government job for quite a while, and so things don't happen in the government like they do the private sector. You know, the private sector, sometimes things are real simple. You get it done and you go after it. Well, the government's a little bit different. You got hoops and loops and all kinds of stuff that you got to jump through. Glad to have John here, John Tuggle and his crew from Region 4 Planning and Development. They helped the city a lot and have been helping us on this project. We will break ground on it and get some dirt and earth moving this year. I will tell you that the first phase of that is actually going to be about anywhere from 15 to 20 miles of hiking and biking, mountain biking and trails. And then the second phase, which will be right in behind the first phase, will be the soccer complex. If you're familiar with our area here, our soccer kids don't have a home, and so we hope to get, and all of it's going to be done first class, top shelf, and so we're really excited about getting that underway this year. And it will happen. I'm assured that it will happen. The other thing too is we continue to maneuver through this modern day economy. The city's real proud to continue to support the economic development of not only the city but the county. And we were a proud participant in joining the county and helping out the new Stave Mill get in their temporary water system for the fire suppression so they could get up and operating. And of course it was all about creating jobs. So I want all of you to know that we're always a partner, not just in the city of Summersville, the greater area of the city is, it's important to us that the whole county is successful. And so we try to be a player everywhere because, nobody's going to do it alone. And I truly feel that way and always have. The city wouldn't be who we were and who we are if it wouldn't be for the balance of the county. So anyway, that's just a quick rundown. I could go on for a long time, but this meeting's not about the city of Summersville. Again, thanks for coming. And Brian, roll it back to you. Thanks.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things come out of this Forestry Forum, and so the mayor actually picked up a love for the timber industry and bought his own sawmill and started sawing.
Love it.
He loves it. So that's kind of interesting. Never thought it out of him, but he is an old farm boy from Kansas?
Nebraska.
You
do that.
Yeah. Hey, let's, without further ado, Tracy is with us today, and Tracy and I were talking about this, and folks, I'm so sorry, I'm terrible with names, but Tracy Calazon.
Got it.
Not Calzone.
That's right.
Calazon. And Tracy is with us from the Forest Service, hails from Washington, right?
Washington State.
Washington State, not Washington, D.C. So Tracy's going to give us an update on the MON. She's brought some folks with her, and I'll let you introduce those, Tracy. And so the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. This is John Green. He's acting deputy district ranger, and he's based out of Gawley, and on the Gawley district. And yeah, hi. Thanks for having me today.
All right, get myself sorted out here.
Can you hear me?
Coming through.
Okay. So yes, I'm the acting forest supervisor on the Monongahela National Forest. I started in January and I'll be here at least through May. It takes a little while to fill behind Sean Cochran, who was the previous forest supervisor for about 5 years. Sean's now gone on to the Black Hills National Forest in South Dakota. So we're working on filling behind him. That vacancy has been flown, so hopefully May, June, I don't want to don't put any bets down, right? But hopefully we'll know before the summer really gets rolling who the permanent person will be. So, yeah, a few topics I thought you might be interested in. I'm going to talk a little bit about Monongahela's timber sale accomplishments and our planning, some stewardship work, wildlife, and in case you missed it, the Capitol Christmas tree came off the lawn last year, which we're pretty excited about. So, okay, let's talk about timber, because I think this group might be interested in some of that. In fiscal year 23, timber sales on the Mon will result in future restoration of almost 2,000 acres of forested areas, providing for wildlife habitat, as well as healthy and resilient trees for many generations. This restoration is resulting from forest sales of 27.4 million board feet in 2023 of primarily hardwood stumpage. Last time a similar timber sale volume outcome occurred was in 1995. That's when the forest awarded 25.6 million board feet. So the forest, under Sean's steady leadership, has been growing in its timber volume, and we plan to continue on that trajectory. So of the 9 sales involved in 23, 8 were conventional harvest. 1 was helicopter. Helicopter sales facilitated operations on slopes too steep for conventional ground-based harvest. And over the last 4 years, conventional harvest made up the vast majority of 35 awarded advertisements. Forest has averaged about 9 awards per year, range of 7 sales in 2020 and 2021 to 12 in 2023. That same 4-year span produced an average sale volume of 2 million board feet and average sale area of 206 acres, excuse me. So as the sale volume increased from 16.4 million to 27.4 million board feet, so has revenue, increasing from just over $500,000 in 2020 to approximately 2.2 million in 2023. And of course, as you know, or maybe you don't, receipts from timber sales are used to support reforestation, such as post-harvest site prep, natural regeneration, seedling planting, tree release, and stocking surveys. So we're also working on a number of stewardship sales. These provide the opportunity to perform services that achieve land management goals, meeting local and rural community needs. Invasive species treatments, mine land restoration, we're doing some great work up on the Mauer Tract, and stream improvements. And other potential improvements include wildlife openings and recreation trail maintenance. So we're leveraging stewardship sales through partnerships. We have a lot of great partnerships working on the forest right now, including with the Nature Conservancy and the Rough Grouse Society. These receipts are reinvested in the forest management projects directly benefiting ecosystem services on the Mon. These include restoring historic red spruce stands and creation of rough grouse habitat. We coordinate directly with partners of stewardship agreements, assisting in the implementation of timber harvesting, providing financial accounting services, tracking accomplishment activities, posting sale information in our annual program announcements, and collaborating on agreements such as non-commercial spruce release and non-native species reduction. Non-native invasive species treatment, excuse me. So the stewardship partner has also has access to Forest Service staff to support on pre-bid sale showings. So for fiscal '24, we are planning to advertise about 31 million board feet, with most of the sale activity occurring in the second half of the year. So get ready, we're coming for you. And as was the case in '23, most of the sale activity is identified for conventional harvest, including 10 of the planned 12 sales. And more information, if you don't already know, more information regarding the '24 program is included in the timber contracting page on our website. And there's a long website here, but you can Google Monongahela National Forest, click on Managing the Land, click on Resource Management, and scroll to the bottom and click on Timber Contracting. But I will provide a link, so it will be easy for you guys to access. I talked a little bit about wildlife partnerships. One of our goals is to maintain viable populations of native wildlife, and we have close eyes on us to do so. Approximately 80% of our region's vertebrate wildlife species rely on forests of different ages for different parts of their life. So we seek to provide a diversity of habitat types to support these populations. Right now, thanks to the big cut, most of the stands, as I think you all know, are 80 to 120 years old. That's really the big center of the bell curve, with very little habitat in the early forest or the very late forest types. So partners we're doing this work with include the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources and the Rough Grouse Society, Department of Forestry, and National Wild Turkey Federation. And those of you who enjoy going out and hunting also hopefully will enjoy some of the benefits that our wildlife habitat restoration will bring. So Rough Grouse Society has purchased 2 mulching machines, and Department of Forestry has purchased 2 bulldozers to work on both Forest Service and state lands. DNR has provided technical oversight, staff, and partial funding for equipment operators, all in the pursuit of treating approximately 1,500 acres of early successional habitat. Timber sales are also a tool that we use to create early successional habitat. And the restoration of open oak woodlands is becoming a priority. These ecosystems provide habitat for wild turkey, white-tailed deer, food, cover, and nectar sources, and we use commercial and non-commercial timber harvesting as tools, along with prescribed fire to achieve these goals. All right. We're very excited this year to be working on a pretty big, to begin working on a pretty big red spruce restoration project, along with 3 other national forests, the George Washington Jefferson, the National Forest of North Carolina, and the Cherokee National Forest, to work, and also with the Central Appalachian Spruce Restoration Initiative. This is a collection of federal, state, and non-government organizations and private organizations with a common goal of restoring historic red spruce northern hardwood ecosystems across the high elevations landscape of Central Appalachia. And our partnership with those 4 forests and with CASRI, the Central Appalachian Spruce Restoration, will allow us to scale up. And and I do also want to mention we're doing a ton of work, some with some of your help, on stream restoration and aquatic organism passages. So with help from the Great American Outdoors Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and the Inflation Reduction Act, we're really excited to be improving miles of stream habitat through replacement of culverts and or installation of bridges. This also helps access areas of the forest that have been cut off or limited. We'll soon be replacing the T Creek Bridge, Forest Road 209 Bridge, which accesses the Stone Cold dispersed camping area, and we're working with Department of Highways to replace the Red Creek Bridge to access Dolly Sods, and the bridge at Tumbling Rock Run, which help improve access for both timber sales and recreation, so that's a big deal. There's a lot more going on. Those are just a few of the many bridges we're working on with the help of those infusions of cash. So let's see, what else do I want to share with you? Well, in case you missed it, the Monongahela National Forest did provide the Capitol Christmas tree last year. Huge honor for the forest, and not only the Capitol Christmas tree, but also the Christmas tree that was in front of the White House, that many, many thousands of people from all over the country and the world saw and celebrated. And I don't know if you were able to see the tree lighting ceremony.
The tree actually came to Summersville. We had it here.
I think it went through 19 communities in West Virginia and Pennsylvania and Maryland on its tour. And so, yeah, really exciting to see. I know the kids from 4-H made a lot of ornaments for it as well. I think every chapter of 4-H in West Virginia, as well as many, many elementary schools, made a lot of stops, as you point out, and just really showing a pride of West Virginia. There was a 4th grader selected by an essay contest that Senator Joe Manchin hosted. And I don't know if you all saw him read his essay at the tree lighting ceremony, which was live streamed. It was very moving. His grandfather is a former forest supervisor on the Monongahela, so really just an unbelievable understanding of the forest and natural processes in that 4th grader, whose name is Ethan. And I have no doubt that one day he'll be standing where I'm standing right now. I mean, it seems like he's on that path. So let's see, I think those were a lot of what I wanted to share, but just really appreciate the communities that came together for the Christmas tree. And then, I guess in closing, it's a big year for the Monongahela. Under Sean's steady leadership, as I mentioned, the forest timber program has grown sustainably. This has put us in the spotlight, and so we are working with a number of environmental organizations and community partners who are making sure that we are doing things properly, paying attention to law, regulation, and policy. And so just know that my background is sort of diverse in the Forest Service, but I have experienced the power of collaboration with a handful of diverse interests coming together around the table. It may take longer to get to a decision, but it's very important that all voices in the room get heard. So there may be opportunities for you to voice what matters to you and how important the forest is and the work that we do on the forest is in community and to our local economies here in West Virginia. So the power of collaboration is very important as we move forward, as the Forest Service works to follow our laws, regulation, and policies, and hears from diverse voices that have not been very vocal leading up to this. So with increased production, includes increased pressures and attention. So that's a good thing, but it also means we will all have to kind of come together. And I also, it is a time of great change for the forest. Obviously, change in leadership can be disruptive, and so we want to try and smooth the ruffles out as much as we can, recognizing that some of that change will be felt, right, by the forest staff as well as by our partners, including the folks in this room. And, but the mission, well, the other things that I might point out that indicate we're in a time of great change, it is an election year, and we are anticipating the sunset of Great American Outdoors Act, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which have made a meaningful difference in terms of the money that we can put onto the ground. But the mission continues, and the forest is in a good place, at least internally with staffing and especially with partners. We owe many thanks to West Virginia Department of Natural Resources, Rough Grouse Society, Department of Forestry, Nature Conservancy, Rough Grouse Society, even partners like the International Mountain Bike Association, Mon Forest Towns, which is really focused on bringing tourism and recreation and communities coming together for the economy, and Green Forest Work, doing great work to restore abandoned mine lands. We work really well with the Harpers Ferry Job Corps, Trout Unlimited, and National Wild Turkey Federation, many others, and all of the people in this room I would consider partners as well. So we're very excited to work with you and continue that relationship with partners and producers. So one of our Forest Service core values is interdependency, and we cherish and depend on the big we, all of us, to get this work done for West Virginia communities and the economy and that of the broader world. So with that, that's all I came to say to you, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have any, or say that I'll get back to you, because I've only been here for a month, and I might not know all the answers just yet.
Do you have an update on the secure rural schools money?
Yes, I can answer that one, although it might not be an answer you love, so.
Repeat the question.
Oh, sure. The question was asking to provide an update on secure rural schools funding and what the process is, I think, for getting it spent on the ground. So I have worked with secure rural schools throughout my career, had 2 different committees on the forest that I worked on for my current job. And it is quite a process, as anyone who's been on a committee or involved with a committee knows. So the status is right now, we do have, I want to say it's between $1 and $1.5 million to spend, but we need a committee to be able to make recommendations to spend it. And the process of getting a committee designated means advertising, soliciting, because maybe you have been on the committee before yourself, okay? Yeah, I was, is your name Sharon?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was told maybe you would be here. So thanks for being here, thanks for the question. We'll have to re-advertise the committee. All of the members' terms have lapsed, so we don't have a quorum. So I'm hoping that this summer, maybe before the end of my tenure here, we'll put out an advertisement for new members, which then there's a few forms you have to fill out and there's a vetting process. That process is led by not the Forest Service, not our Washington office in DC, but the Department of Agriculture. And so the secretary himself is the person who actually approves members. So it's a pretty, I will say, arduous process, and it's lengthy. So that money's not going away, but it's frustrating, I grant you, that we can't spend it right now. So I don't know everything about what's been recommended in the past. Sometimes if a project has been approved by a committee in the past and it's kind of a recurring, the forest supervisor can make a decision to continue spending the money in that way. However, that's not very satisfying because it is intended to be a collaborative process. So it will be a while. I suspect it just politically, my observation and experience with RAC committee membership approvals is that it typically the best time for approvals to happen is between the election and inauguration. So that's just when I've observed that things happen. It's a very interesting process, but it'll be a minute, but definitely take note of when we will be advertising and soliciting for new members. We need to have a diversity of members, at least 15, and also alternates for each of those spots. So thanks for the question. Yes, sir.
Does the state USDA director have any influence on that process?
Are you talking about the process? So, so the question was, does the state USDA, or sorry, the State Department of Agriculture director have any influence on that process? So what I would say is, my observation is that citizens, any citizens, but also state partners, can influence the process by noticing the length of time that it's taking and mentioning that to USDA. Now, I wouldn't go off and start writing your letter just yet because we haven't done the advertising process, but after that comes out, it may be important to indicate how valuable the committee is to the people of West Virginia, the economy of communities surrounding the National Forest. So,
Just curious, is that money, are those programs money spent in the park, or are they spent in the communities?
so I don't want to cite chapter and verse on the rules. Typically, they are, I mean, Sharon, you might know better than me, but I think it's a variety of types of projects. It's funded like AmeriCorps interns, and not on the Monongahela. In my past, it's funded some bridges, it's funded some leadership programs, it's funded some restoration activities. What are some examples of the Monongahela? I don't have those up my back pocket.
So some of the ones close to us would be like in Pocahontas County in the town of Arlington, the splash pad, which is a huge hit. The pavilion at the visitor center up on the mountain, that's from RAC money. Let's see, signage, a lot of signage that you'll see is everywhere throughout the whole lawn. The grass cutting on the scenic highway, some funding went to that. A big one in Webster County is the trout stocking, and which that one we approved continuously. I would love to see if you have any power to move that one through. That would be a good one for that community. So, because it's something that continues every year.
We'll look into it. Yep.
There's a lot of great projects, and it's a shame they don't have like a little plaque with them to tell you where the money came from. But it's a fun thing to get involved, because you get to see all these projects come in, and you get to decide, on which ones. Last time it was great. We had plenty of money that we could share it across the board, and we accomplished a lot. So. But that's a lot of the local ones that you would see.
Thank you. Other questions?
Do you happen to have an update on, I know you're not the Fish and Wildlife, but with the North Fork Cherry River, there's 3 projects that I'm aware of that they're holding up because of the candy darter, and which is an impact on the Richwood as a Mon Forest town, and there's a bridge up there that they can't make progress with. There's the water intake for the city, and I believe there's one more. But anyways, the candy darter is the issue.
Well, we actually did, I'll have to check on which ones exactly, but we actually did get a couple of responses from the Fish and Wildlife Service that are important, that are directly related to the candy darter and related to bridges. So I don't know if they're the same bridges that you're referring to, but we can look into that, and they might go by another name, but it's easy enough to find out. And yes, the working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, they obviously have a lot on their plates, and the work that we do as compared to big highways and coal mines might feel like small potatoes to them is very important to us and to our communities. So I'm working on getting a meeting with Fish and Wildlife Service to just ensure that they understand what we're dealing with. Prescribed burning is a big one too that we're really hoping to be able to do to reduce now native invasive species and to also create habitat and reduce hazardous fuels in some area, and that has been a challenge too. And we have very small burn windows here in West Virginia, so a little bit in the spring and a little bit in the fall. So yeah, it's top on my priority list to work with them. But there might be daylight on the bridges, so we'll get that answer for you hopefully before the end of the day. I just need to look at my computer. So we might be at time, right? Any other questions? I mean, I could stand up here all day. I can't promise you I know much more, but well, thank you so much for letting me come and speak and for the invitation. I will be here all day through lunch. I do have to dip out for a meeting at 11 o'clock, but come and catch me if there's something that you want to ask, and I'll find somebody to find the answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Before you run off, I have a couple comments here real quick. So, Tracy, you seem like you're on top of things, and Chris, and some of you that's been in here a long time, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, Clyde Thompson, he took a lot of heat from us in the room about especially getting some timber out of the mon and some timber harvest and whatnot, and he went together and put a plan together. And so I'm thinking it ran into 2023. He looked at succession cutting right on up, or not succession cutting, but looked at some harvesting in the forest right up to 2023. Am I right in recollection of that? It was a long-term plan. So what I'm saying is, in your short term here, we've reached 2023, 2024. What's the future planning look like? I mean, are you all still thinking about that? Is that in the outline or in the plan of work?
Yes, sir. So we have what's called the order of entry, and that is based on a combination of watershed, and it really is focusing on larger landscape level planning. We've got a couple now working, and the versions that I've seen for order of entry, and they're like in the 80,000 acres with sales and units within them, right? So we're not doing work on all 80,000 acres, but that's kind of the project area, that's the watershed area, and then we do work in specific areas within that space. And the versions that I've seen all go through like 2029 or beyond. So yes, we are in a continuous planning mode, and we have a north zone and a south zone, and so the deal is that the work and analysis and the timber cruising and the wildlife assessments and all that stuff, so they're integrated projects that include, of course, timber work and veg work and restoration work, and they go on. So I think we can provide the order of entry and provide a little bit more detail on that if that would be helpful. But it's, you know, we work on the north zone and the south zone, and our goal is to get out at least one per year, so they're sort of in opposite years. So to have that continuous plan in place and some shelf volume, as we call it, so that it's ready to go and there's not any kind of drop off.
So just to follow up, so you know, many years ago there wasn't that much management going on from a standpoint of timbering. So would a citizen be right to assume that what's happening in the Monongahela is happening nationwide in all of this country's national forest land?
Well, a lot of it depends on the particular forest, right? I would say in general, in the past, I would say 8 years or so, there's been an increase. Don't quote me on the number of years, but the Forest Service nationwide has been creeping up sort of in the same sustainable trajectory. It comes in different ways though. So my permanent job is in the Northwest, so I oversee recreation and trails and wilderness and heritage cultural resources for all of the 17 units of the National Forest System in Oregon and Washington. And there, the big dog is fire. So it's really about hazardous fuels reduction, which timber is a tool, but getting rid of some of the brush and then being able to do this prescribed burning to create a safer, or not, if not safer, more resilient ecosystem across the very drought stressed forest of the Northwest. So even in rainy Portland in the past 10 years that I've lived there, has gotten drier and drier every winter. You can feel it, the summers are smokier. So it really just kind of depends on the particular ecosystem, but I would say in general, timber volume is an emphasis in a steady increased way. And the chief of the Forest Service has a wildfire crisis strategy. The Forest Service has a wildfire crisis strategy that aims to reduce, I'm going to quote it wrong, but reduce hazardous fuels on, treat 30 million acres of forest and Forest Service and private state non-Forest Service land for hazardous fuels reduction, and I think 10 or 20 million acres of on National Forest System land. So the wildfire crisis is real, and that is really a driving force, mostly west of the Mississippi, but it's sort of everywhere. So.
Thank you.
And one last thing. So Chris and the City of Summersville TV, we've worked on this education component to get into schools and whatnot. And it was such an honor for that Christmas tree to come from the Mon on the educational component of it, folks. To see those kids, when the tree stopped, you know, the only place I was able to make it to was at Summersville, but there was all kinds of little activities for these kids to do. The Forest Service was there, the Division of Forestry, Columbia I think was even there on board, and a lot of entities. The educational component that provided to our youth, that was a check mark. That was a check mark. And so I think that helped the industry in whole also in a respect for that. And so I thought that was great. That was great. That was an honor for here in West Virginia. And the little boy that won the essay, I think, was from Pocahontas County. Yeah, so a pretty local kid. So thanks. Yeah,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Chris?
So when Brian, he called, he was like, hey, we need speakers. So this time it was quite a challenge getting people out. So kind of go back to an old list, and I said, man, I'll do what I can, and this and that. So I called the old buddy Mark Haddix. I was like, hey, what are you doing? He was like, well, yeah, I can help. And I said, well, I thought you retired. He said, well, they kind of fired me. So they kind of brought Mark back, and his replacement, Aaron Wolfinger, I got a hold of them. They said, yeah, we're glad to come down and talk. And I think probably a lot of people in the room have met Mark over the years, but after talking to Aaron once or twice now, I think it's good to know that we got somebody that's going to hustle around that. So I'll kick it over to you guys.
All right, thank you. Do you guys want the podium?
Yeah, please. Sure.
And they're with Farm Credit. Chris didn't introduce them. They're with Farm Credit, right?
I believe there's something to talk about.
Oh,
That's correct, and I, as many of you know, I spent my career with Farm Credit doing wood products lending from 1995 until I retired in 23, and so, yeah, Chris said, I'm going to put you down as fired from retirement. I came back, retired February of 23, came back December of 23 to spend some time mentoring and introducing Aaron, and so I'm going to let him talk for a little bit, introduce himself, tell him his background, and then I'll give a short presentation right after that.
All right, everybody hear me? So my name is Aaron Wolfinger. I am the relationship manager for the wood industry with Farm Credit of the Virginias now. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, north central Pennsylvania, Potter County. But my roots have always been in forestry. So from a young age, I helped my father and grandfather with their forestry consulting business that they ran out of western New York and north central Pennsylvania. And I really grew my love for the wood industry, grew my passion for that. And so it inevitably pushed me to go to Penn State University and pursue a degree in forest ecosystem management there. And a minor in agribusiness. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to intern for several years with the Bailey Lumber Company out of their Potter lumber mill in western New York. So that was a really, really great opportunity for me. It gave me some insight into the procurement side of forestry, something that I had not been familiarized with before. And when I was there, not only did I get to run around with their foresters in the woods, but I got the opportunity to go around with their kiln operator, with their on-site kilns there. Got to spend several days in the mill through all different parts of that chain, and then also spent several days in the yard scaling, grading, building out containers for shipments to China, whatever it may be. So that was a really great opportunity for me. And then fast forward a couple years, I took a job out of college with F&W Forestry Consultants, which is out of their Charlottesville, Virginia branch. And as a consulting group, they didn't own any of the timber or land, but they helped manage about 90,000 acres in the state of Virginia. Most of that being loblolly pine plantations. So again, that was another great opportunity for me. I had not been familiarized with softwood at all, and so I got to expand my background a little bit more. And that takes us up to right now, as I took over from Mark in December, and I feel very blessed to be able to still be very connected to the wood industry, and I look forward to meeting all of you at different points, throughout my career, and hearing about your business as well. So some of you may know about Farm Credit. I'm just going to give you a little brief overview on what we do. So the Farm Credit system, we're an agricultural lending institution, meaning that we specialize in financing for agricultural rural communities. That's something that I think sets us apart from other banks. We actually have a background in the industry that we represent. So what that means is we understand how specialized it can be, how unique the experiences can be, and we're able to be flexible, and work with you, because we really want to see the wood industry and other agricultural industries do well. So we mostly in the wood industry side of things, we're on the production side, so that would be sawmills that we provide financing for, but we also provide financing for logging operations, land and timber acquisition groups, and forestry consultants as well. So it's not just sawmills. And we can help, as far as the financing goes, working capital needs, timber purchases, land purchases, as well as new and used equipment purchases. Something special that I'll just highlight that we've been doing a lot lately is a thing called a guidance line of credit for equipment purchases. So it's a pre-approved line of credit specifically for equipment purchases. So what would happen is I have a conversation with a customer, and they come to me and say, hey, I'm thinking, I'm going to buy a piece of equipment 6 months down the road. I said, okay, well, I'll set you up with a guidance line of credit. We'll have you pre-approved. So 6 months down the road, get a call back, hey, I'm going to buy this piece of equipment. Well, we have that pre-approved line. We're all set. That one call, we can get the financing and get the paperwork all squared away. It's really quick, it's really easy. It's been very well received by the customers that have used it so far. So I think that's just a really, really good feature that Farm Credit of Virginia has at our disposal. And then the last thing I'll just talk about is our patronage refund program with Farm Credit. So as a borrower with Farm Credit, you become a member owner, meaning that a percentage of the interest earned over the last year gets paid out to our borrowers as a patronage dividend. And what that has been over the last 15 years has been paid out about 25% of the interest that the institution has earned. So if you're looking at it, you know, from your perspective, if you have a loan and you've been paying 8% interest rate on it, well, you're going to get 25% of that as a patronage dividend check to you in April of the following year, meaning that that interest that you've been paying has actually not been 8%, but it's been 6%. And I think that's a really good program that Farm Credit of Virginia has. I think helps us stay competitive, and it really values or places our value on the customers. Again, we want to see these industries do well. We want to see you stick around for a long time. So thanks for letting me talk a little bit about myself and talk a little bit about Farm Credit of Virginia's. And if any of you have any questions or you just want to talk about your business a little bit, I'll be here all day. So I look forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Where are you actually located at? Where's your office?
I'm located out of the Harrisonburg branch, but I travel all over. So I like to think my office is my truck. It's been that way for a while, so I'm pretty used to it. But we help service all of West Virginia except for the Panhandle. Yep.
After spending over 25 years lending to the wood industry, became kind of vested in it, and so outside of loans, I mean, just the whole industry itself is valuable. And I thought I want to give a little bit of information about what's been happening. Everyone knows about the markets, the market prices, but we got a little bit of this presentation in Charleston a few weeks ago. This thing was put on, the information I have was presented by David Caldwell back in 21, a presentation he did. Some of this information is from that. But basically, wood usage just in home construction has been declining for over 30 years. You go back 30 years ago and the percentage of wood in homes versus today is down about 35%. And that's softwoods and hardwoods. So we come to the hardwoods. What's been happening? And so you break it down into various industries that use hardwoods. We have furniture, molding millwork, industrials, and hardwood flooring. So furniture. 1999, I'm going to be talking about all domestic, not total wood use, but just domestic. 1999, domestic furniture industry consumed 3 billion board feet. 2020, domestic furniture industry consumed 330 million. 70% decline. All right, let's move to molding, millwork, and cabinets. It peaked in 2005 at 1.6 billion board feet. In 2020, it consumed 270 million board feet. 82% decline. Hardwood flooring, very interesting. Very interesting. Since 2012 to 2020, housing starts increased almost 74%. Solid hardwood flooring market share or volume decreased 4.4%. Industrials, 1991 to 2019, hardwood pallet, can, and lumber consumption is down 23%. So I'm really not making them out of wood. What happened? We share it. We're sharing for softwoods. Our railroad ties, Usage has increased 31% since 1991. So the switch is this. In 1999, appearance grade hardwood lumber, so all your higher grade lumbers, consisted of about 60% of the market, where the industrial, so the low grade, consisted of about 40%. Flip over to 2020, and we got 59% industrial and 41% grade. This is domestic. Total consumption, or total production in that period, I think, moved from a little 11 billion board feet down to about a little over 6 billion board feet. We're still producing great lumber, so where that what happened to that market share? Where'd it go? Well, it's going exports. But we've also lost market share to other products. I don't want to bring bad news. I'm just telling you, we kind of know where you've been to understand where you want to go, right? And so, if I, forward thinking, where are we going to, what's the potential? Well, I think there's good potential because I think of solid hardwood flooring and solid hardwood products as being environmentally friendly. And there's a lot of focus on environmentally friendliness. A red oak, 1 square foot, board foot of red oak takes about 6 seconds to reproduce in the woods. 6 seconds. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good thing, right? Or how about all the focus on carbon? I'm working with a doctoral student at WU right now to try to calculate if we used solid wood products in an average single-family home, what's the carbon component of that? That's step one. I think it's going to be positive. There's going to be a storage unit of carbon in solid wood. Now that's good. It's not going to be as large as I thought, but to contrast that with using a single-family home with no non-solid hardwood, the contrast is going to be huge because the non-hardwood floor it's going to use so much more carbon in that process. Laminate flooring might be cheap on the front end. The environmental impact of laminate flooring is going to be greater than the solid hardwood flooring. The carbon component, the way I'm getting, is basically about 50% of the weight of the product. Unfortunately, the stuff I'm getting is I can find the cubic meters of wood used in a home, but I don't know the weight, all right? And so we got to go back and look at each component in the house, whether it be trim, flooring, cabinetry, doors. What would be the estimate if we use all hardwoods? What would be the estimate, of the carbon storing capacity of that? I think one of the new things that we've seen is cross-laminated timber. CLTs. We've been talking about that for a long, long time. There's a factory being built in Virginia right now to use poplar. It's been certified for use in CLT manufacturing. All right. I think that's step one. I think step two would be somewhere down the road. You got 5 to 7 layers of CLT. You want a home built out of CLT, right? You don't want it, and it's appealing. You got a wood product, right? And it's nice and warm. But what if you could take your room and say, in this room I want 1 layer of red oak as the wall. In this room I want 1 layer of cherry. In this room I want hard maple. And you design and build your home that way. You have an appearance grade layer and a structural grade behind. Those are some ideas. I know some people are working on this type of approaches and have been since CLT came around. It'll get there. You don't know how fast, I don't know where. But I think the renewability of wood is our future. The environmental friendliness of wood is the future. So I think that the outlook is good. We just got to get from where we're at to there. If we get to the place where we're charged for environmental footprint, I think wood wins. Years ago, the market in Europe felt like they want to go to an environmental product declaration label where they had the environmental footprint of a product on a label. And so our American Hardwood Export Council went out and did a life cycle analysis on hardwoods to get ready for this product, right? So, and basically they did this study, and it's very intense, but I remember the outcome. The outcome was basically this: you produce a product in the middle of the United States out of solid hardwood, ship it around the world, that product's carbon negative from consider. It stores more carbon it uses in that process. So even if we go to that kind of a situation where we have environmental product declaration labels, solid wood products will do well. So there is a future. Basically, no doubt, if we're using less wood on homes, then we got to build more homes to get the same market usage. We can get there. We do need homes, but I think there's a bright future. It'll be a mix of all the above to get there. Our message is getting told. We've got the real hardwood presentations going on nationwide to promote, solid hardwood products. I think all those investments will have some return at some level at some time. Guys, thanks for your time today.
Any questions for these folks? Yeah, so no questions there, and so, Mark, I didn't know you were going to talk about that, but it's kind of led into where the rest of the sessions are going to go. Is you can kill that, Chris. I get this magazine. It's called Farm and Dairy, okay, and man, this thing it comes out weekly, and Jerry's on here. He's an editor of a magazine, and so. This is basically, you don't hardly see a magazine anymore, right? And so this thing's put out weekly, and I mean, it's plumb full of things. And the front page was called Reverse Rusting, and this was back in January 11th. Reverse Rusting, and so this is an article that's written about the Weirton steel mills, and we are all familiar with that industry. If you were ever in the northern panhandle, it was a booming industry that started like in the early 1900s. I mean, like 1909, the Weiss family started these steel mills up there, and it went from there. I mean, it boomed until like the 60s or 70s, and then it all fell apart. And so, actually, what's happening now is the steel mills in Weirton are seeing a rebirth of the industry. So they're making some batteries, is what it's moving into. And so some of you may want to research that and look at it a little differently. But that kind of puts me, this wood industry, we've talked about products and we're looking at how the carbon effect is in it and the appeal of building with the cross-laminated structures and the hardwood floorings and whatnot, and back to kind of like the furniture industry. The North Carolinas were leading that at one time, and this went per-thunk, right? I mean, the furniture business in North Carolina is probably non-existent, right? All right, saying that? But I think we're at a time point in our society where there's a chance to kind of rebirth the industry in that aspect of things. And we've got the product here. And so these next speakers are kind of what we led from that. And so Jerry Klingerman is with us. And I've got to pull out my cheat sheet here. Jerry is the editor and owner of Expressions in Woodcraft. And Jerry, I'm going to let you're on speaker. The whole room can hear you. It goes through the system, and kind of explain what you're doing and your magazine and why you're doing what you're doing, and a little bit about the history of the magazine, maybe. Does that sound all right?
That sounds great, Brian. Thank you. Yeah, Brian, thank you for inviting me to speak today. First, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Seems like most of you all know each other in the room, so I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself. But before I do, I want to say to Brian and the gentleman from Farm Credit who spoke before, for me, what all this comes down to is all about the jobs. And that's really what Expressions in Woodcraft is about. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I am an Ohioan. I lived my first 60 years in mostly in Northeast Ohio, a little bit, about 20 years in Columbus, Ohio. But now I am living in the Atlanta, Georgia, where there is no snow and no ice. So I'm been down here just a little over a year. But I am from Northeast Ohio. Many of you would recognize that as Ohio's Amish country. And even though I spent my first 20 years of my career in the corporate world, mostly working in the electric cooperative industry, about 20 years ago I escaped. And after about 1 year of being self-employed, I fell completely backwards into working with Amish furniture builders. At that time, I was working mostly on the wholesale side, but I did also do a lot of work on the retail side. So I've had the opportunity to get as pretty far inside that industry. I would say, without trying to be boastful, probably as far into it as someone who's not Amish can get. So I've seen a lot about the industry. If you see me glancing off to the side, I'm glancing over at my notes that I made for today. I'd like to begin by just telling you a little bit about the industry itself in our region. And I want to circle back just a little bit to, again, the gentleman from Farm Credits and Brian. We've only scratched the surface of what's possible. I was actually shocked when he mentioned the board feet levels of wood that have been produced in this country during that time frame. Because in our region, the furniture industry and everything related to it, and I'm going to talk about that, is absolutely booming. It truly is. Of course, during COVID, when the government was handing out money, we experienced a boom like never before. We normally had lead times from the time the consumer in a retail store ordered a product to the time it was delivered to the store, generally was about 6 to 10 weeks pre-COVID. During COVID, we hit lead times as much as 36 weeks. People were waiting months and months and months for their furniture. Now that has all pretty much come back to normal, but there was quite a boom there. Our industry grew completely organically, which is very difficult to do. I tell people all the time, the Amish built a brand, a billion-dollar brand without even trying, because if you mention Amish furniture or quilts or food or whatever to anybody, one of the first things that comes to their mind is quality. And that brand is so valuable. But it didn't come about overnight. It came about quite organically. And we actually have the baby boomers to pay for that. When they first started coming to our area, which, in case you didn't know, I guess I should say, is mostly Holmes County and Wayne County in Ohio, a little bit of Stark and Tuscarawas counties, but the epicenter of Ohio's Amish country is Holmes County area. And when the baby boomers first started coming to our area and discovering the high quality products there, that's really what gave birth to our furniture industry. And at first, in the 90s, you could go to a small shop, a guy would stick a sign at the end of his lane saying, furniture made here. And he had all the business he wanted. People would come, they would work directly with the manufacturer and get their stuff built. But by the end of the 90s, most of the producers in our area were realizing that they could be much more efficient and, quite frankly, make more money if they went wholesale, if they started building their products and selling them to retailers. So now, these days, probably, I would say 98, 99% of folks in our area who build furniture do it at the wholesale level. There are some people, I know people who can still go there and work with them directly, and that's quite the experience. But the vast majority of them are wholesale. Locally, we have about 100 or so retail locations where you can buy locally made products, but actually the vast majority of it is shipped out of our area. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, as I was doing research for this, trying to figure out what goes on in the Hill area and where you folks are, we have an incredible tourism base there. Ohio's Amish country attracts 3 to 4 million visitors a year. Still, even though the audience is aging in and aging out, we still get 3 to 4 million visitors a year. So we're very, very spoiled in that we have a captive audience for everything that we do there. But that audience is changing. You know, when I first got involved in the industry, it was mostly oak and cherry and a little bit of hickory. And there were just several styles. There were only a couple of colors you could choose from in terms of stain. You know, if you picture the classic cherry dining room set or an oak dining room set that was finished in light color, like a blonde type finish, that was pretty much it. And to be honest with you, baby boomers were so enthralled with the quality, they didn't really care about the color or style. Well, all of that has changed. Every bit of it has changed. Today, we see consumers aging into high-quality furniture somewhere around age 35. That's when they begin to realize that, you know what, I'm tired of getting this stuff from Value City or Big Lots or even IKEA and putting it on the curb every 3 years. I don't want to be too bombastic here, but from my perspective, that stuff is just very low quality. It's not worth the money, and it doesn't last. And when we can get consumers to start to realize it, that's the time at which they become interested in high-quality furniture. But having said that, today's consumers, and you're talking, the millennials are in their peak power buying years right now. The early edge of the millennials is now in the early 40s, on down into early 30s. And of course, you've got the Gen Z behind them, who are an even bigger generation, which I won't talk much about that, but because right now we're mostly working with millennials and their buying habits. They, in addition to quality, they're all about the experience, and they're all about style. They don't necessarily care that something is a high quality. They expect that, but they also want something that goes along with the style in their homes. And that has changed our industry remarkably. We've got, in early April, we've got the Ohio Hardwood Furniture Market coming up, where more than 100 builders from our area will gather and display to retailers from across the nation. If you were to go in there next month, or the month after next, and then get into a time machine and go back 15 years, you wouldn't even recognize the products. We've done a great job in responding to what the consumers actually want. And again, those consumers, they're skewing much lower, into the mid-30s, early 40s. And I think we've done a good job of responding to what they actually want. One of the things that has happened, and this might interest some of you, is when we think about fine furniture, we think about #1 grades of lumber. And actually, that is something that has changed remarkably as well. We are now building a significant portion of our furniture using rustic or character grades. I'm talking about oak, even corso on white oak, character grades of that. Cherry to a lesser extent, certainly hickory, absolutely, we're using character grades, and even walnut. And the effect of that has been, it's allowed some of those premium hardwoods to become much more affordable. Generally speaking, of course, you've got cherry up here as the premium price board, and then at the entry level, you've got oak, of course, being the most affordable. In addition to the rustic grades, we also have seen a huge influx of brown maple. You folks may call it soft maple. In our area, we call it brown maple. Brown maple has almost replaced cherry, to be honest. I don't know what the percentages are, but brown maple is attractive. It's a smooth grade, and for most consumers, if you put a piece of brown maple furniture next to a piece of cherry furniture, they won't be able to tell the difference. So those rustic species are extremely popular because, again, younger buyers, they love seeing the character of that lumber. And it's very attractive. The other thing, of course, is that no two pieces are alike. I could talk a lot about what the rise of rustics, and actually I've written a couple articles about that, about what the rise of rustics has done in our area. Basically, the bottom line is what it's done, is it's made those premium wood species much more affordable. And quite frankly, the pieces are just extraordinarily attractive. Again, the gentleman from Farm Credit alluded to this a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about just the jobs. Something American made versus an import. About 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to produce a number of exhibits that showcased Amish-built furniture in 3 major cities. We were doing events in Cleveland, Columbus, and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a great city, by the way. Love the one up there. That was about, I'm going to say, somewhere in the 2010 time frame. And of course, we all know about the housing bust back then and what was happening there. But as we started to get out of that, what I began to notice in talking with consumers is that they wanted something that was made in America. I heard it over and over and over again, especially in Pittsburgh. I would hear people say, well, I want something made in America. And that's great, because we've got a great story to tell with all American-made furniture. And I just put together a brief list here that I'm going to share with you of the impact of the furniture industry on jobs. And some of you may know this, but I'll go over it quickly. First off, you start with logging and then trucking. You take it to the sawmill and then trucking. You truck it to the dry kiln. From the dry kiln, you truck it to the wood processor where they do the pre-finished lumber. From there, you truck it to a place that makes components or glue-ups or panels. From there, you go to the person who's going to actually construct the furniture. Trucking again goes to a finish shop. And then finally, it's picked up from the finish shop, and guess what? It's trucked to the final location where the retail consumer purchases it. If you didn't know this, trucking plays a huge role in what we're doing in the furniture industry. Logistics and trucking is just, it's a vital component of all of that. We've also got tools and supplies. There are people, talk about the wood shops and the things that they do. They've got to have tools. Some of those are high-end, heavy industrial equipment, and then some of them are people who come around and service them and sharpen saw blades. And of course, then there's the finishes. We have actually 2 major companies in our area that actually manufacture finishes. Hardware, of course. Unfortunately, a lot of that is still being sourced overseas, but it still has to be purchased and installed and transported. My point with all of that is that in every step of the process, you have a lot of jobs. You have a lot of jobs. The consumer, all they see is they see a piece of beautiful furniture in the store. They have no idea the supply chain and logistics all the way along, and how many jobs have been created along the way. And so while we're very fortunate again to have as many retail stores and tourists in our area, like I said before, that the vast majority of our product goes outside of the area. And in terms of what you folks can do, if you're able to start or enhance any of this type of industry in your area, I would encourage folks to look strongly at the wholesale side, because quite frankly, that's where our industry really grew. Only about 10% of the products that we make locally, House Amish country, stays locally and is sold in those retail stores. About 90% of it goes all over the country, and frankly, something that's shipped overseas to Europe as well, and a little bit of it goes into Canada as well. And I think some of it, perhaps a great deal of it, of building this industry and creating brand, of course, is educating. In my experience, whether it was is at looking home and garden shows or helping out my retail clients, if people know the story behind a product, they're willing to pay more for something that's of higher quality. I've also done a fair amount of sales work in my career, and I still do some sales work. And honestly, very few decisions, very few buying decisions are made on price alone. And again, if people know the story behind something, they're much more likely to buy a product because of what they know about it. And in terms of American-made hardwood furniture, we absolutely have a great story to tell, especially when you compare us to the imports. First off, of course, is the quality. You really can't beat the quality of American-made hardwood furniture. It's just really not possible. We build the best furniture on the planet. I'll say that to anybody. Of course, we've talked a little bit this morning about the environment, sustainability, things like that. The gentleman mentioned that every so many seconds, a square feet of oak is created in the forest. And that's fantastic. And my point in leading up to that is that wood, hardwoods, and I'll notice, is an incredibly sustainable product. And what I tell people in my writings and everything is that a well-managed woodlot is an incredible asset. For the person who owns the property, if their woodlot is well managed, that's something that you'll about every 15, 20 years, you can have it logged. And well-managed woodlots are literally the gift that keeps on giving. But again, the average consumer, they don't know that. Especially younger folks who have been raised to be much more environmentally conscious. When they think of wood products, they think of cutting down the forest or clear cutting, whatever. And of course, all of you know that's exactly not what we're doing at any level. And again, it's a process of education. If you can get consumers to understand that, no, we're not clear cutting forests to make furniture. We're sourcing it from well-managed woodlots so the yields again. And again, I would emphasize once more that the number of jobs that are created, the number of jobs that are created as a result of the wood products industry. And again, as the gentleman from Farm Credit mentioned, it's not just furniture, it's also cabinets. We have a lot of high-quality cabinet makers in the area. Hardwood flooring, we've got some hardwood flooring people in the area. The number of jobs that are created from that people don't necessarily realize at first blush, it's been an incredible benefit to our area. At this point, only about 10% of our population in the heart of this country is involved in agriculture full-time. 90% of our people are working, off the farm. A great percentage of them are working in the wood products industry. A lot are working in construction, but I have to tell you that the hardwood furniture industry has been a blessing beyond anything anyone ever could imagine, simply because of the number of jobs it's created. And I should say, they're good jobs. Right now in our area, a young person working into a wood shop, they can expect to make at least $20 an hour. During the height of COVID, it got crazy. Entry-level wages were probably $25 an hour. I don't know what they are right now, but I would say somewhere in that range, $20 to $25 an hour, just to be, just to be a general laborer in a wood shop. And our average wood shop, by the way, is 1 to 3 people, including the owner. 1 to 3, 1 to 5. So, people who get to that level to where they own their own shop, folks, they're making good money. They're making very good money. Like I said, it's been a real blessing to our area. To kind of circle back to your region and what can be done, I guess I would strongly encourage folks in your area to take a look at the wholesale model. You know, I tried to find out if there's a lot of tourism in your area. It looks like it's mostly, you know, ecotourism, going in the mountains, that kind of stuff. But again, you've got the resource there, obviously, you've got the wood. And I would encourage anybody who wants to try to explore, you know, value-added products like furniture and flooring and cabinets to take a strong look at the wholesale side. Because I know that's what really made our industry boom. And again, as I briefly outlined there, a lot of people don't realize that the jobs all along every step in that process. I guess I've touched on pretty much everything that I wanted to. You know, again, just to circle back a little bit, when it comes to the end consumer, I think the biggest hurdle is educating them about quality, about value, and of course, educating them about the sustainability of our wood products. So with that, I guess I would be happy to answer any questions. If there's anything that you feel I missed or you want to circle back to, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from here?
If not, I'll turn it back over to Brian. Hopefully I've added some value to the discussion this morning, and I truly appreciate being asked to help you out this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. One thing that comes to mind is, you know, you have all these little small shops that are building this cabinets or furniture or whatnot. Just briefly, real quick, touch on what the state of Ohio has done as far as coordinating the sales of this and the marketing program and making all this work. Can you?
As far as the state itself, I have to be honest that it's done very little. And I don't mean that as a negative. I will say that our local extension service has worked very closely with our industry, but in terms of marketing or branding or anything like that, the state of Ohio hasn't really done much. I don't know.
Let me rephrase that question. You all started the guild. Can you explain that, or was that a question for Atlee?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
The guild, the association.
Oh, the guild, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that was, again, that was a very organic process. He's referring to the Ohio Hardwood Furniture Guild, which is based in Holmes County, Millersburg, Ohio. The way Amish society works is if they see a need or a problem, a lot of times they will form a committee with members from different areas of the communities. Just real briefly, there's not one central Amish church. The area is made up of church districts, each of which is about 30 to 50 families. So they'll take a guy from over here, over here, and they'll form a committee. And that's what happened with the Hardwood Furniture Guild. They saw, and I was there, I watched this happen. They saw a need for some type of advocacy organization and a marketing group. So they approached the Holmes County Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, and the guild still runs kind of sort of under their umbrella, although that's changed. Now the Hardwood Furniture Guild has its own executive director, Kendrick Mullet, who has a long history in that. But really the guild is just beginning to expand its marketing efforts. The biggest thing they do every year is, of course, the show. They're just starting, maybe the first thing, maybe it's not, but they're just starting to take a look at some other marketing aspects that would support the brand and get the word out about our products. But there's a lot of potential there, especially, I can't say enough, with the new full-time director that they've had, because prior to that, the Hardwood Furniture Guild was just a small arm under the wing of the Holmes County Chamber of Commerce, and their executive director was actually in charge of the guild. That has changed, and really, Kendrick's only been on the job in the state 6 months or a year, but we're pretty excited to have him on board. and to see what he can do. There's a lot that can be done to get the word out about this.
All right. Good. Any questions for Jerry? Hey, so this is a place I think we'll take a break. The restrooms are right out there. The lunches are making it in. We'll start back and eat some lunch, maybe do a few ministry updates while our next speaker chimes in at noon. So we'll look forward to that. So enjoy your lunch. That the convention center here has its own staff that prepares meals for any kind of occasion. If you have some kind of function you want to hold, they'll try it out today with the lunches you fix. So I hope they're really good, huh? Development, got anything going on? Report them? Land company? So I just want to reiterate this for the folks that are watching. The 4-H program is going to be up and running for kids that are interested in wildlife, forestry, plant identification, the history of the forest industry. It's going to be February 27th at Richwood City.
The Old Armory.
The Old Armory. Richwood's Old Armory at 4:30 on the 27th. So parents, if you got kids that are interested, make sure they check that out. Bring them, help, come volunteer, get them involved. If they're interested in wildlife, outdoors, anything around the forest, bring them out.
We plan on visiting the Spencer boys to hear about the history of logging around here too.
Yep. All right. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay. So, Atlee, are you there?
Here, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So, Atlee, I'm going to do a little introduction. This is Atlee Kaufman with Bentwood Solutions. Atlee's going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing as with Bentwood Solutions, what it is, kind of his role, and then I think he's going to end with some questions that we may have for him. I'm going to put Atlee's company, Bentwood Solutions, up on the screen, their website. Atlee is Amish, so Atlee's joined us by phone. He's going to kind of talk to us about the Bentwood Solutions and what's going on there. Is that fair to say, Atlee?
Well, yeah, I'll talk about our area here in Holmes County.
Go ahead and tell us about that Bentwood Solutions, okay?
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Atlee Kaufman, married to Ella. We have 2 boys, 2 girls, all are married. 15 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. 2 of my boys are involved in the business, and so is my son-in-law. Unfortunately, my son-in-law is a maintenance man, and he's in Florida right now, so I never know what my role is when I get up in the morning. We started doing carriage church in 1981 as 77 Coach Supply. In 1985, we started bending furniture parts for our local furniture manufacturers. Table skirting, rollbacks for chairs, chair back. Then in 2014, as my 2 sons come in as partners, we actually sold the carriage division off, and then we changed our name to Bentwood Solutions. We did solid wood bending for the furniture industry up until 2022. The industry started changing, and as people come in, they said we have to add a upholstered chair to our line. So they were asking for a laminate bend, which is less expensive than a hardwood bend. And so we started that a little bit with laminate bending. And right now we do offer a laminate bend, or we offer solid wood bending. I'm also a tree farmer. A tree farmer and I try and spend 1 day in the woods, 1 day a week, working on the wood, doing timber stand group work. Mostly, and you people that are involved in forest that, if a forest piece of timber is taken care of, that it will pay that off for the next generation. Here at Benwood Solutions, we have our own dry kilns, so we buy green lumber, random width, random length, from the mill, and we bring it in here, of course, it's air dry, most of our species are air dry, and then put in the kiln. Now, the reason I have our own kilns is, flax on white oak, before we bend it, rotate it down to about 10% moisture content. Maple with a 16-17%, just so we can get a smooth finish out of the planer. Of course, then it's processed and bent, and of course, then it's dried. And as far as our drying process, it depends on what bend is, what radius, what size feed. We'll use our hot boxes where we hold the piece of wood in forms where it can straighten out, put it in a room where it's hot, and we dry it that way. We also have presses, hot plate presses, where we use steam to dry the wood. We can bend a 7/8 piece of wood in soft maple, 16% moisture content, and in 2.5 hours we can have it down to 8%. Of course, your course on white oak will take a little longer, so each species has its own character that we have to work with. We also do drying with radio frequency. Drying of wood and some of the compound bends, we use radio frequency. And also, and then in our laminate bends, which we just had started, for the most part, those are dry with, the glue is dry with radio frequency to hold shape, until it's dry. So that's a little bit about what we do here. We supply bent furniture parts for the local industry or any place else. We have small, most of our customers are in Ohio and Indiana. We do have shops in Pennsylvania that we supply. Of course, we have a lot of small furniture shops in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Missouri, that are smaller shops that buy bent parts to go with their furniture. Our suppliers, we buy 4-quarter through 8-quarter in red oak and cherry, soft maple, then in some of the other species like walnut. We won't have the 8-quarter, but we'll have 4 through 6-quarter. And of course, rustic white oak, and on white oak, we have 4 through 6-quarter. We buy all of that green. We have our areas where we prefer generally to buy our material from because of the texture, the color. Most of our lumber is bought from in eastern Ohio. That's been from Youngstown vicinity north into Union City, Pennsylvania. It's got a lot of good soft maple there, and that's the main reason that we buy a soft maple there. We do also buy some species, all except for hickory and white oak. Hickory, we go to southern Ohio, and white oak, generally south also. It depends a little bit, whether we want quarter sawn or we want flat sawn. But generally, the 2 species that we go south is hickory and white oak, just because of the nature of growth and defects within and you people that are involved in hickory, in the forestry industry, you realize that hickory, there'd be a log there, I bet might itself on the red oak log versus the board an 8-quarter board in hickory, whether there's any defect in it. So that's the reason we go south on the hickory. Of course, after it's dried, we have our own milling facility here. And at first we tried to have a custom dry our material, but you know, it's so confusing for a drying kiln to have all the different species, different moisture content that we want to bend. So that's where we put our own kilns in. And we have a kiln capacity of, I think it's 84,000 feet. We have 3 60,000 foot chambers, and we have a 32,000 foot and a small chamber yet. So that way we try, and you know, our hickory is, of course, we bring that in the summertime. We don't air dry it, we put it in the kiln so we can control it and not having staining problems. And of course, the same thing with white oak, you know, we check it, you know, we try to put that in our kilns and take care of it right away. In the past, we bought hickory out of Kentucky quite a bit. Well, we used to do carriage bark, so there we bought a lot of hickory out of the south. Another thing is that we started lately with laminate bending, which we use veneers. Our veneers are raw grown poplar. That's what they call it, but it could be poplar or drum. And that comes generally out of Alabama. That's one supplier that we need to bring home, but we have not found anybody that does long run poplar, you know, close to home. Our hardwood veneers, you know, we have the company in Eaton, Ohio, you mentioned wood products, where we buy our hardwood veneers from, and you know, it's we only have one supplier for our hardwoods, and it's we are looking for another supplier, but being we don't use a lot of hardwoods in veneers, you know, I guess we haven't found the push to do that. I want to talk a little bit about our area here. Our area has is kind of unique in as far as there's a lot of small shops. And we have a lot of shops that are 10 people or under, and we have a lot of good craftsmen in our area. And the craftsmen would buy, they would buy parts from us. We would ship them to a CNC facility where they, you know, put mortise in, put pen in, you know, or cut a dado in it, or whatever must be done. And then from there, it is shipped to the 3-man shop. And they're more of an assembly shop. So they're craftsmen, and they assemble in volume for the amount of employees they have. And of course, you know, one shop might do tables, one shop might do chairs, another one would be doing bedroom furniture. Of course, then we have a lot of people in cabinet industry also, but mostly small shops. A lot of mom and pop shops or mom and pop shops with a few employees. It's us as a supplier for all these shops in the area. We have to listen to our customers. When our customers came and they told us that they need to have a less expensive bend to put under upholstery, you know, we took it seriously, and that's when we started doing the laminate bending. And so it's been a circus around here the last 2 months with all of our shops that they're getting for the spring furniture show in northern Indiana. It's the last week in March, and I think here in Ohio it's the first week in April, where they go to the show and they show all the new types of furniture that are being built or what they have. And, you know, with the industry being a little bit depressed, it's amazing just to see how many samples that we've built, and people are coming in with more design, need some more samples for the show. And of course, then they don't just show in Ohio and Indiana, but there's a lot of customers that go to High Point. A lot of our customers go to High Point and show their furniture. And we might have, in our area here, we might have one company that will buy a chair from, or a couple of chairs from this manufacturer, a couple of chairs from another manufacturer, tables from another manufacturer. They put the sets together and they take them to High Point. And of course, and that's one thing that is unique about this area also, is our Chamber of Commerce. And the Furniture Guild, which puts on the show, is an arm of the Chamber of Commerce, and they will put on this show where all these small shops can show their furniture without a great expense. And of course then, you know, there's stores from all over the United States are invited to these shows to come in and take a look and see what type of new furniture is being built. The main thing that I think is the success of our area is the flexibility of the shop. You know, if there's a new style needed, there's a new style made, or there's always people designing and coming up with new design. Just lately we had a local shop come in here with a needed for a laminate chair, and they said if soon enough, you know, we can probably pull them away from importing their chairs. Well, we're doing the first order of 500 chairs, and yesterday they said, well, their chips come in, so they're going to be doing between 500 and 600 of those chairs, but they just are trying to rely on imports which are less expensive. Probably less in quality also, but we have to do something to entice them to try and buy American made. And that's what we're trying to listen to our customers. And of course, a lot of our customers are going on price conscious only, so they're not concerned as much about quality as they are in pricing. So that's kind of been that's always an issue that you face. And you know, in COVID we couldn't keep up. The furniture stores got behind, so we couldn't get enough product. So unfortunately, we still have customers that have furniture in their warehouse that was built during COVID. And so it's kind of not, you don't know which way to perfect it, because you know, we are like the forums, they're trying to get their part of their markets. We do have a good employees available in this area, but you know, the labor is high. Unfortunately, it's not have that we have to pay labor to the amount that we're not going to be as competitive as we'd like to be. Of course, then it goes, what can we do to avoid labor? What can we do to avoid this job or eliminate that job? What equipment can we replace this employee so we have that employee to do something else? So that's a real challenge. Back to furniture show, and I think that and the guild that's under the chamber, I think we have to give them a lot of credit for our area, you know, what they've done in marketing. We haven't. I feel we have the craftsmen here to make it, but maybe not the marketing expertise that is needed, and that's where they have to do a lot. Most of our Amish employees here have only an 8th grade education. Of course, at woodworking facilities that we can, when they leave the 8th grade, they start going to school in a business and learn how to be a craftsman in their young years, and by the time they're age 20, 21, they've developed the craftsmanship and they're ready to go on in life with their go on in life. Everything is changing. So I guess if we are here to change with what is needed, we can move ahead. I have a lot of concerns about our suppliers because of the price of lumber. And I see, in the Harvard Market Report, I think, I saw last week for our exports up until November of last year, down about 20%. Unfortunately, this is forcing out some of our suppliers, that can exist with, I guess, some of these prices are too high. And I hear that time and time again from our suppliers that the stumpage prices, by stumpage at decent truck, well, the Woodland owner also left it as something for his product. So, fortunately, with being in a world economy, has brought a lot of struggles since there's not enough market. And I think, in looking at almost all the forecasts, the world economy is kind of depressed, with the war in Israel, the war in Ukraine and Russia, it's so the Chinese economy is not doing well. So there's a lot of concerns in the woodworking industry, and I wish I had more answers, but I don't.
Hey, Atlee, we're losing you there, buddy. Are you there? Cell phone must have run out of service.
Okay.
Are you back? Service.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, right there. Stand right there.
Well, I'm sitting at my desk. So, but I will not move.
So,
Can you hear me?
yeah. So tell us real quick, what are some of the average wages you're paying and whatnot there in the cabinetry or in the shops? What are some of these employees making, to give us kind of something to go by?
Okay, we have our employees on a basis where it depends on how much material goes out the doors and what they make. And we're in the mid $30, like $35 to $38 an hour is what they average per week or per at the end of their payday, they get their incentive-based pay. And but right now they're between 30 and 35.
Yeah.
And it depends a little bit if we're working 4.5 days a week, and if they only get, if they just about can't handle 4.5 days, definitely they get more per hour because, they try and work faster.
So
today I come out here at, can you hear me?
Yes. So what I'm going at there is, so you're not making a product with cheap wages, are you?
We are not. And, so it is a concern, any place that we can add a piece of equipment to eliminate an hour of labor, we have to do that.
You're getting like us. So, we've had this discussion, you and I had this discussion early on. You're not buying any product from West Virginia, and I think you're missing out on some of the high quality hardwoods we have here. What do you see are some incoming needs that you may need?
$1.5 million feet of lumber, the green hardwoods last year. And, and of course, more soft maple than anything else. But red oak, white oak, cherry, gray elm, hard maple, quarter on red oak, quarter on white oak, rustic white oak, and flats on white oak.
And
of course, veneers.
How much did you buy last year? I missed that.
About 1.5 million feet. About 1.5 million feet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're down. We were down. We used to, in 22. We used about 1.8 million feet. So our sales were down last year, and so was our lumber usage.
Okay.
And everything we buy is facing better. Now, the rustic white oak is facing better, but we give them allowances to put 1-inch knots are not a defect. So we work with our customers as far as what we want, and so they can supply us what they want, what we need.
Any finishing thoughts there, Atlee?
I guess, does anybody have any questions for me?
No?
One thing I guess I'd like to say is don't compare your life with others. You have no idea what their journey is all about. So their journey might be different from yours, but they don't do what you can do yourself and do it best.
Good point. Hey, we're going to come see you sometime. Thank you. Hey, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Have a good
Bye now.
Good. All right, folks. So just a little twist there of some different things to kind of look at and think about, and maybe get us thinking. But I think that's a really good system that they have. Of course, they're training their employees up through kind of the education system to take that on. But man, something that just popped out is like they talk about that guild and having a show for their products. I know we're not making any furniture here or anything like that, but is there something in the industry that we could have a show for that would help us down the road get rid of some product? It's just food for thought. Food for thought. Hey, anything else for the good of the cause, Chris?
Hey, I got one, and I think I know there's a few of us that were at the symposium, A.B. Brooks Forestry Symposium, but it was talking about, you were all kind of zeroed in on housing starts and where that affects all of us pretty much in this room. But there was one of them had a slide up, and it was talking about the different age groups, and it was, Gen X right now there was 65 million, and then it got into talking about, the millennials and then Gen Z, which will be into buying, millennials are into buying homes now. Now you're getting into the Gen Zs that will be buying homes. And it was pretty interesting because it was kind of talking about, housing's down, but you're getting into this group that's going to be looking for houses. And between the millennials, there was 72 million, and the Gen Zs, there was 69 million. So there's going to be that I hadn't thought of it that way until then. We got to talk about it a little bit more coming up the road, but that's a huge number that's going to be looking for that. So it's kind of, as an industry, I feel like we're kind of in a spot, with the push for the hardwoods and with the carbon. I think we're sitting in a good spot to start kind of getting it out there that it's a good thing. And we've touched on that a little bit, but it's just kind of wild to me to look at those numbers of how many people are going to be looking for those and the shortage of houses that will be there. So it's going to drive that demand. And with people buying houses, it's a perfect opportunity for furniture to kind of get into that, and being hardwood guys, we're right there for that. So that was kind of your point, what can we do to get in there on that in our small little neck of the woods? And I don't know what that is, but it takes more than one head, definitely more than mine. So.
Looks like opportunity to me, but
Yeah.
somebody's got to put it under their roof and run with it. Hey, anything else to go to the dog?
Jerry.
Brian, do you mind if I jump in on that topic just momentarily?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead. We got about 10 minutes. We're going to get out of here.
Okay, sure. Yeah, the gentleman who just spoke, I couldn't agree more. There's currently actually a big shortage of housing. That's why, even though the economy is having some hiccups right now, is because there aren't enough new home starts. So that's what's keeping existing home prices high. And he's right about the generational breakdown. The millennials are currently in their high buying power years, but behind them, the Gen Z is an even bigger generation, and they are currently spending way more at their current age level than previous generations. They're going to cause a boom in a lot of areas. And I would definitely agree that as the housing industry goes, so goes the furniture industry. And I've written many, many times about the different generations, and I've also written extensively about the impact that housing has on the furniture industry. Just to throw this out there, if there's anybody, Brian, you can share my email address. If there's anybody out there who would like to subscribe to my magazine, it's free, it doesn't cost a dime, and we follow housing and generational issues very closely. So just throw that out there.
Cool. Hey, thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Hey, folks, thank you for your time. I think it was good. Looks like a nice day out there.
Can I just say a couple things?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tie into something, is it Mark, that you were talking about in your presentation regarding cross-laminated timber, or mass timber as it's sometimes known. There's a huge opportunity there. The Forest Service, state and private forestry kind of branch funds a number of different grant programs for wood innovations. And in the Northwest, there's whole office buildings being built with cross-laminated timber and mass timber. There's whole conferences about it. In addition to it being kind of cool space to live or work in, it also has all kinds of benefits, like uses up timber that's less merchantable. You know, it's it's not as easy to sell. You know, and that we have a lot of on the National Forest System. And as a building material, it has a lower carbon footprint than concrete, and it also is more earthquake resistant and even more fire resistant, ironically. There's been a lot of tests that have gone into that. So it's actually, there's some really cool, innovative buildings. I think the tallest one in the world used to be in Portland. Now it's in either Milwaukee or someplace in Europe. But it's like it's a competition, friendly competition, but also a good way of finding good use for products that are not as valuable, but are still important to get off the forest and have a really important role in the wood products industry and I think any economy generally. So just wanted to throw that in there.
So Mayor, out there at your sports complex, you need to build something out of some wood right from this area.
If y'all ever fly into PDX Airport, it's been Portland Airport, they're putting a whole roof on. It's been an ongoing kind of construction project for quite some time, but the entire roof is CLT. So it's a definite kind of showpiece, and I'm looking forward to that airport not being under construction. But I'm excited to see it.
Anthony?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few comments related to this discussion and marketing, and somewhat related to what Mark said earlier. You know, our industry has a story to tell, but we're, as Andy said at the symposium there in Charleston in January, we're not telling. One of the reasons we're not telling is because we're not well funded in marketing. We don't have a well funded marketing campaign in America, and I don't want to come off as having a defeatist outlook on, you know, what is being done. The Real American Harbor campaign is a good start. But, you know, as Andy said in his discussion, you know, his presentation symposium, you know, it's a $2 million marketing campaign, a national campaign that only has $2 million. That was the fundraising goal, anyhow, total. Our industry, we've talked about this for years, our story, but it's always been talk. The hardwood industry in particular, in my opinion, too many of us tend to sit back and wait on the next opportunity to come and save us. At some point, this industry's got to get aggressive, and then everybody in the industry's got to dip into their pockets and start putting their money where the mouth is. Otherwise, it's never going to come. And, you know, I brought up the checkoff program at the symposium up there in Charleston. And I know anybody in the cattle business is going to have mixed feelings on that, but nobody can deny a checkoff program put beef in a lot of kitchens. It was one of the most successful marketing programs in history, you know, the Cattlemen's Association's checkoff program. And I know there's, you know, a lot of mixed feelings on it, but still, the bottom line though, what I'm trying to get across, I guess, is we can talk about it for more years to come, but until we start taking action and going outside of our comfort zone, nothing's going to change. You know, we've got a story to tell. The time, you know, there is opportunities there. Now, even telling our story on the marketing side, the environmental sustainability side with a product, that's all great. We can get to new customers there. We also have to tackle the cost side too, which hasn't been discussed. I don't know how we overcome that, but we've got to start with telling our story to the consumer and, I guess, deprogramming their thought process that wood is bad. You know, we've lost that battle for decades now, that they think using paper or forest products, they're contributing to deforestation. They don't understand the process, the industry, and that actually purchasing forest products increases the value of forest products, and forest products having high value dictates land use across this country. We're not telling that story. I guess that's a long-winded explanation, but you know, we got to start putting our money where our mouth is as far as the marketing side, and we've got to stop sitting and waiting on the next opportunity to come fall in our lap, because that's just not happening much these days. China kind of bailed us out after the recession and kept us going for the last decade, but you know, as the one gentleman said, China's economy is in horrible shape. We don't know if it's going to, who knows, it may stay this way for the next decade. We've got to be out there creating the next opportunity, but it's going to take money to do it.
Well, I'm sure you all have an organization, right?
I'm sorry?
You all got an organization, right?
Well, there's many. That's the
many,
problem
yeah.
with industry is there's multiple, there's not a organization.
It's too fragmented. Our industry is not as organized. I mean, if you look at the industries in ag, like the cattle and the beef industry, our industry is nowhere near as organized. It is leaps and, I mean, it's light years behind other industries. There's multiple national trade associations, yes, but is there everything, you know, like the NCBA? We don't have that in our industry, particularly for the hardwood industry. So, and that's another thing with the hardwood industry is, you know, a lot of our national associations like FRA, I'm on board with the Forestry Resource Association, and FRA does really good work, but you know, they're representing the industry across the entire country, so they're also representing, you know, the softwood industry, which is a totally different world than we live in here in Appalachia. But yeah, there's a lot of different groups out there, but there's no centralized effort for the hardwood industry alone. other than the American Hardwood Campaign, which, like I said, is a good start, but we've got to figure out how to better fund something like the Real American Hardwood Campaign. Because $2 million for a nationwide social media campaign, I can tell you, that doesn't do much.
Who could lead that charge?
What's that?
Who could lead that charge? Somebody's got to step up.
Well, I mean, the Real American Hardwood Campaign has gone out, a pretty good job of going out and grabbing all the regional hardwood groups to pull them together, and each group participates through that. Okay, but that's about as unified as we've gotten yet.
And I think, you know, the American Hardwood Campaign is a good person to head that up, but I guess why I'm saying this is we need to be telling our peers in this industry, look, put your money where your mouth is, otherwise this spiral we're in may not change. And that's the problem, is there's too much resistance in funding and dipping into your bank account and putting the money out there and saying, yeah, I'm going to participate in this. And you know, that's the point I'm making, is we've got to change our attitude. We've got to get united behind something, but we've got to fund it to make sure it's successful. We've got to make sure it's got the money. No one's going to give us the money. You know, there's no giving out there that's going to give us the money it takes to tell the consumer our message on hardwood forest funds.
Well, take that back to your organizations and kick it around.
Well, the U.S. government is in the process of creating across the country carbon storage systems. We're going to pay each region, you know, fees to store carbon in the ground. Can we change that narrative? Let's do that naturally, and just take a fraction of the dollars and go back to it. So my thought is this, is that can we make it more economical for someone to use solid hardwood products through a tax incentive or something like that? Cash for clunkers, remember that deal? You know, you're thinking that just really sounds crazy, right? But it worked. It worked because we were buying foreign oil. So we had a trade deficit with Saudi Arabia. So we were losing anyway. And so we reduced our consumption of oil by paying people. Well, let's pay people to store carbon in their homes. And then we all win. You know? So, you know, we change the narrative a little bit. We get involved in the things that we do already, but we let people know. I mean, you know, people can feel good. You know, my kids are kind of, you know, I have younger kids that have gone through the education system. They're really concerned about their environmental footprint. What they lack is information.
We're losing information about it.
They're lacking information to make right decisions. Yeah, we're not going to be cheaper. Right? We don't want to win that battle. We want to sell value so everybody wins. But you compare us to another product and a carbon footprint, we win. So I don't know how we can change, but maybe, you know, that'll be my conversation with our senators. It's like, you know, we got a carbon sink already. Let's get paid for it.
And that's another good example of where we're losing the information more, is the carbon market, the voluntary market. You know, there's a large component of that market that's steering towards a pro-forestation management approach. And there's a whole lot of science out there that backs up what Mark was talking about earlier, that product displacement is the key to carbon sequestration in relation to forest and forest products. But we're losing that information now because we don't have a big enough voice, because we're not as organized and not as well funded.
Well, here's one final thought. I work with a lot of groups. And in these forestry forums that I've been involved with, this is probably one of the most talented group of people, and as far as knowledge that you know about the industry and making things happen and surviving, that I think somehow we've got to come together and make things work down the road. And I mean, I'm not kidding you, this is one of the most talented group of people that I have seen in the commodity groups that I work with. So I know you can make something happen. We got to. It's really important to this area. Thanks for your time. We'll see you again in the fall. Stay tuned. There was some sign-in sheets went around, make sure we got that, so we can make sure I keep the contact information, so I can get those emails out to you. Again, City of Somerville and the mayor, thanks for the lunch, thanks for the room, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, you're welcome.